Hello everybody and welcome to the second tutorial lesson. My name is Michael and today we're really going to be looking at pathing. A little bit in terms of rides, but a lot in terms of plazas and just some of the kind of quirks with it and stuff like that. Okay, so first off, I just kind of made this basic path here. Obviously this looks terrible, but just for the sake of showing you things. So first off, if you click on the L1 and R1, this will pull up your different options down here, right? So if you go to pass and pull that up, there's going to be just normal pass. There's also going to be queue pass. And the queue pass can only be used when you're going from the entrance queue of a roller coaster. Okay? Now the other one, or let's go back to pathing here. Then there are a lot of different options. You got curve slopes on, flattened terrain on, and we'll get more into that in a second. Tunneling off. You got path supports. I try not to have too many really elevated paths that aren't on where you're going to have supports with it, but that's where you can say you want supports on or off, whether you want to do custom supports and so forth. Curb on ground, I think there are times when the curb on ground looks good. There are other times when it doesn't. And so I kind of wish they gave you the option of choosing different curbs, but we don't have that option. Okay, but for right now, let's put curb on the ground because I think it looks better than just not having anything. Railing on elevated, off or on. Railing on ground path, off or on. And you see it's on, so we turn that off, and the railing's off. So I'll go ahead and take this off right now, and let me turn the curb on ground off as well. And then you can turn the railing off or on for queue. Okay. So first off, let's connect these paths. So as you can see, you just place there and go and connect. You have a little bit more freedom in terms of how you want to turn it, make awkward paths or make awkward angles and so forth. One thing that is good though is, so if you didn't really like how that corner was, you can kind of fiddle with it. And if you move your cursor there, as long as it pulls up like this instead of that, if it's kind of going in the middle area, you can hit X and then you just hit triangle to delete it, and it kind of rounds it. So instead of having it at that 90-degree angle, it kind of rounds it a little bit. And you can kind of work with it and see sometimes that didn't do anything, whereas that one didn't really do anything either. So it all just kind of depends. Sometimes it will shape, sometimes it'll shape your path a little bit differently. Well, now let's look at the queue. So now the question when we're looking at the queue is, let's say, all right, well, I don't want my path to be all kind of awkward and curves and stuff. I want it to be nice and neat like at a normal theme park. So what you can do is you can actually pull up a grid. So if you hit the triangle button and say select grid, what this does is this allows you to then choose, and you got to press X there to kind of let them know that you're wanting to choose that grid. And then now you can continue the grid and you can go back and forth, whatever works for you. And so the key with this is going to be the size of the grid in terms of how large the squares are dependent upon the size of your path. So as we can see, the width is 3 meters. These are 3 by 3 squares. Okay. Now when you get here, you can't go ahead and connect it because it's not going to connect. So what you do is you hit circle, and then it'll pull that up. Okay. Now, as you can see, but there's always going to be somebody standing there, and you just have to turn on the ride. Now, another thing that's cool in this game is they've created what's called priority passes. So if you click on the ride and you go to this mechanic part, actually, you know what? Sorry, it's this one right here to the settings. You can click on Enable Priority Pass. And what it's then going to have you do is you then place your entrance. So what you do is you place the entrance near the front of the ride, like this. And then you want to place the exit, and so I'm going to place the exit. Let's see. You know what? I didn't really lay this out properly because it's not giving me a good option. All right, let me go back and redo. Let me place the. Let's see if it'll let me. Yeah. So let me place the entrance this way. Okay, so there's the exit. So as you can see, I'm just trying to make sure that I can place it properly. Sometimes it's a little bit finicky, so I don't know why it's not giving me that option. Probably because I have something right there. Let me do something real quick. So let me look at the paths. So let's delete that one. Let's delete that one. So now we can connect it that way. So now let's look and look at the priority. So I apologize for that. Sometimes I haven't really used the priority too much. So let me just redo this. Say disable and then enable. And now I can place my priority entrance here at the beginning of the ride. And then I can place the exit there we go. So yeah, sometimes you just gotta play with it a little bit, and then now we just need to connect the two queues, or the two priority lanes. So I'm just going to, you know what, I'll use a different color, or different style path for the sake of this. So we'll do cobblestone, and then you could do the you could do the grid if you wanted to, or you can just connect it. For sake right now, I just want to connect it. So there's our priority pass entrance. So what's going to happen is when you open the ride, those who buy the priority pass from your information booths are going to be able to bypass this other part of the line. So it's pretty cool, kind of like, you know, adding that fast pass point of view stuff. Now the next thing I'm going to look at is looking at creating plazas. Okay, and so there's obviously a lot that goes into plazas, and if I can do a more detailed video if people want me to. Right now I'm just going to look at just the basics of it. So I'm going to do a 10 meter wide path. And one thing, as you can see here, using this path already added 1% to the Oswald meter, right? So paths can kind of build up that a lot. So you got to kind of be careful and strategic about how often you use your paths and how often, like how wide they are and so forth. So first thing you need to do is you just need to place one of these. Okay, doesn't really matter the direction. Then if you press triangle, it pulls up this menu bar. Click on select grid and then hit X. And what you can do then, kind of like before, is we can now make a plaza. So I'm going to make a rectangular one here. Alright. So now once we do that, like I talked about before, let's kind of get rid of these awkward corners. Sometimes corners are good, sometimes not. So for the sake of this, we're just going to make it, yeah. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another one right over here. There we go. So let's have it go that way. So now we do the same thing, select grid. Now I'm just going to make another 3x3, or I guess that was more like 4x3. 4x3 plaza, or 5x3. And now I'm going to connect these. And this is where you can really get creative with stuff. It takes you a little bit sometimes just to kind of fiddle with it and see what works and what doesn't work. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect these two plazas. It doesn't really matter where, because now it's just a matter of kind of messing with it and seeing kind of what works well. So now I'm just going to do this where I try to shape the path. So as you can see, it's slowly but surely kind of moving a little bit. So now we're starting to get that connection. So now you can see, and then here we can... Alright, so now we start to see that we've now connected and made this pretty cool turned plaza. And you know, you can do this as much as you want. Like you see there, look at the difference in those two, right? It kind of straightens it out a little bit more. Actually like it like that a little bit. So you just kind of play with it and see what works for you, how wide you want your pass, and so forth. And you know, always, I did not mean to do that. Yeah. And so I don't really have too many corners. I kind of like rounding it out and kind of seeing what I can do with the pass, because in general, the pathing system is probably the worst part of Planet Coaster, is it can be really tricky sometimes. But then here, you know, if you wanted to, you could delete a centerpiece, you know, delete a piece in different places, just if you wanted to, you know, kind of then put a tree in the middle and so forth. So what we could do here is we could like I said, this is just really basic. If you go to the create menu, go under nature, and choose a tree. You know, everybody's got different trees that they like, and they've got a lot of good options, but I feel like they could have had some more. So, you know, if you choose like a big oak tree or something, that's probably not the best one for right there. Let's see. Let's choose the sycamore trees or something. You know, you can kind of choose a couple of trees if you want, and then what we can also do with this path now is we can do what we kind of did before, where you can kind of shape it, and let's change the width a little bit to meet kind of what you want. So now you can kind of see how it's kind of shaped the path a little bit. So you can then kind of outline it with rocks or anything like that. And so it's just really up to you. It's just about getting some practice. But what I really wanted to point out was how to make a plaza that looks kind of like this, because I haven't seen too many videos like this. And I think it's really unique to kind of have this in a park. Now the other thing I want to talk about, let me raise the terrain just a little bit, is when you have your terrain elevated a little bit. Because one thing, if any of you've watched Nerd Chacho, he's got a YouTube channel. If you haven't heard of him, type him in, subscribe to him. He's great. He is really good with realism in his parks. And one thing he talks about is no park is completely flat. So you just he'll turn down the intensity, and I am nowhere near as good at this as he is. But he turns down his intensity a lot, and he'll just slightly raise stuff, right? And so I'm just going to raise this up a little bit more just to kind of show you. And so one thing that's kind of unique is when you have paths that have a little bit of little elevation to it. And as you can see right there, there's a little bit of an awkwardness because it's trying to raise it around the path, but the path won't allow it to, so it kind of gets a little rigid. What you can do is you can just go up here and go to smooth, and you can smooth that out a little bit. So it definitely helps. Let me turn the intensity up for the smoothing part. So it'll kind of smooth that out. So what we can do here is we can have our path up here. Okay. Let me go back to the 10 meters, since that's the width we've been dealing with. Okay. So I'm going to have my path up here that's kind of on this elevated surface. Now if you just go there, it's going to automatically connect, and what it's going to do is it's going to automatically kind of flatten the area around it a little bit. So now you've got just a slightly raised, and everything around it is kind of smooth to that path. And so that's what's really unique about it, is now you've got this little bit of an elevation that gives that realism to it, of that you're not just in a video game flat park, right? And so it's really up to you on what you want to do. Sometimes if you have it too much, it's going to flatten stuff around it a little bit too much. So like, let's look at another example. Let's take this terrain again. Let's pull that up a little bit more. All right, so let's do it like that. It's a little bit larger. So now pass. So this one might mess it up a little bit because of how much larger it is. Yeah, and so you can see how, okay, now that worked fairly good. It's just this other part around it I need to smooth out, right? And so what it does is it just allows you to kind of elevate your path a little bit and have everything around it remain smooth and so forth. So as I said, I just wanted to kind of go over some pathing tips with you, and I hope this helped. As always, you know, I'd love for you guys to comment on my video, share your insights, thoughts, and if you liked it, like and subscribe, and hope you have a great rest of your day.